Hi there, and welcome to my review of Mickey 17. Written and directed by Bong Joon-ho, the mind behind the 2019 film Parasite, a film, by the way, that won 4 awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best International Feature Film. So how does his most recent film hold up? As always, spoiler warning throughout this review, and if you are new here, welcome. These reviews go over the pros, cons, main takeaways that I gathered from the film, as well as my overall thoughts and opinion of the movie itself. If you have yet to see the film, please give it a watch and come back to this review once you are all caught up. Mickey 17 centers on Mickey Barnes, played by Robert Pattinson, a down on his luck everyman who escapes Earth's hardships by joining a space colonization mission, only to realize too late that he signed up to be an expendable. Each time he dies, a new version of him is printed, complete with his memories, leaving Mickey trapped in a cycle of death and rebirth. At its core, the film uses this provocative premise to explore weighty questions about identity, mortality, and what makes us truly human. Bong Joon-ho weaves these existential themes beneath a layer of dark humor and sci-fi absurdity, creating a story that's as thought-provoking as it is entertaining.
Out and I wanted to get off of Earth.
You're planning to be an expendable?
Yeah.
You read through the whole application.
I should have read through it.
Once you die, we'll print a new version of your body.
They made me work my ass off on one mission after another.
Every time you die, we learn something new, and humanity moves forward.
Oh, hey, he's alive. It's fine. My life is gonna be Vicky, it's not looking very good for you. Yeah, no. I'm sure you're used to it by now, but what's it feel like to die?
What hasn't Robert Pattinson done at this point? His performance in this film as Mickey Barnes is exceptional and entertaining as hell, as it is fun, engaging, and a driving force of comedy and reflection throughout. His portrayal of variations of Mickey as varying clones, typically as Mickey 17 and 18, are great and vital to the story this film is telling. We have Mickey 17, who's indecisive, unsure of himself, and a bit of a pushover, while Mickey 18 is impulsive, violent, willing to kill, and admittedly a bit of a loose cannon, creating a great dynamic between the two Mickeys. Additionally, adding to his performance are these internal voiceovers at certain points throughout the film, which are well delivered and help bridge scenes expressing Mickey's internal conflict. Another key point is that it's a genre-bending film. Yes, Mickey 17 is technically a science fiction film. There are clones, new planets, and futuristic tech, but to reduce it to that would just be missing its nuance. One of the film's most compelling strengths is how it refuses to stay in one genre. Instead, it's blending elements of dark comedy, satire, existential drama, and even moments of suspense. This tonal and genre flexibility is no accident. It's very much a signature of director Bong Joon-ho, who has made a career out of defying cinematic expectations. As we see with Parasite, where he shifted from social realism to thriller to horror to eventually tragedy by the end of the film. In Mickey 17, he uses the framework of sci-fi cloning, specifically sci-fi cloning story, not to deliver traditional action or tech spectacle, but to ask strange questions, sometimes uncomfortable questions about identity, labor, death, and, of course, human worth. With that being said, let's now pivot to what didn't work for the film. Mark Ruffalo as Kenneth Marshall and Toni Collette as Miss Marshall. Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette's performance as Mr. and Mrs. Marshall was interesting and unique at first, but it grew to become annoying and cringeworthy by the end of the film. Sure, I get it. We are meant to despise them, but there came a point in the film where every time they were on screen, I found myself wanting to skip forward. Mark Ruffalo's character can be described as egotistical, an authoritarian clown, self-absorbed tyrant who runs the colony like a cult, who desires nothing else but white purity, while his running mate is absurdly obsessed with making sauces. Another point that I didn't like about the film was the lack of world building beyond Mickey's perspective. The colony that they're on is meant to be inhospitable. I get it, politically tense environment, but the movie never fully explores the broader world dynamics beyond Mickey's personal arc. The setting feels more like a stage backdrop than a lived-in sci-fi world, missing the immersive depths of something like Dune. There's minimal sense of how civilians live, work, or organize themselves. The power structure beyond Kenneth Marshall barking orders, the general population and how they view clones or the expendable program itself, the social tensions that exist beyond Mickey's immediate drama. And when you compare this film to films like Dune, District 9, or even The Hunger Games, where the environment is integral to the emotional and thematic stakes, the oppressive systems are everywhere, not just in the conversation or the wacky leadership figures. Another con would have to be the uneven pacing. The film moves quickly through the setup, slows down dramatically in the middle, especially when Mickey 17 returns back to base, surviving after being left for dead with the creepers and discovering that he has been cloned, as made evident by the discovery of Mickey 18. What follows is the second act that overstays its welcome, leading up to a third act that feels reminiscent to the pacing from the beginning of the film. Perhaps cutting out 20 to 25 minutes of the film may have helped with the pacing and kept me from looking at the time on several instances. With the pros and cons out of the way, let's talk about the key takeaways of this film. Naturally, Miss Marshall is fixated on sauce, as you see throughout the film. It encapsulates everything she and her husband prize, the illusion of refinement built atop a foundation of exploitation. For them, sauce isn't just a food, it's a marker of class, a way to distinguish themselves from the so-called unwashed. There's a scene where she makes a variation of her sauce from a native species, literally slicing off its tail while it still writhes in pain, tossing the pieces into a blender without even giving a second thought. There's no technique, there's no reverence, just brutality masked as taste. Like so many settlers, she's indifferent to the history or skill behind what she imitates. She doesn't make sauce so much as she assembles it, skipping the knowledge and effort, but claiming the prestige. It's performance masquerading as culture. Another key takeaway of this film is that society's willingness to watch. In the words of the director, Mickey goes through all these deaths in the film, and everyone is just like, well, you signed the contract. It's your job to die. We don't have to feel guilty about the fact that you are constantly going through these grueling deaths. And I think that really shows the cowardice of the society and the community and the system around him, where make him do these dangerous things and they're able to relieve themselves from the guilt by saying, oh, that's just his job. But there's a way that they justify it. But then you can see sort of the creepers, the unique creatures in the film who operate through a totally opposite mechanism. And I think that the contrast we see from the humans and the creepers is very important to this film. Another key takeaway is around the empathy in science. Humans will always have a tendency for evil, as well into the future and even when we make our way to space. This is partly what contributes to the film's cynical vision of humanity. You see Mickey is constantly being printed out and sent out on all these dangerous missions, but like I said before, no one feels guilty about it. Junho also comments on how important empathy is, being able to reach out to creatures or to other people that don't look like you. A major plotline throughout this movie and how empathy in hand with science is critical to the human spirit. The human spirit is tortured, tested, appreciated, and explored through the character of Mickey 17. The last key takeaway that I want to talk about that I took from this film was the film's bleak outlook on capitalism. You see, Mickey 17 positions itself within the lineage of critical science fiction, using speculative technology to reflect on current systems. The notions of an expendable workforce literalizes the commodification of labor under late capitalism. You don't just hire someone, you own their image, their function, and, well, even their death. Here, science fiction doesn't point to a distant future, it magnifies the present. The expendable is not an alien concept. It's a logical extension of labor, surveillance, capitalism, and military-industrial ethics. Mickey 17 asks not what if, but isn't this already happening to some degree? In the end, how does Mickey 17 hold up under the weight of its own ambition? In many ways, it's a fascinating, genre-defying entry into Bong Joon-ho's filmography, one that blends science fiction with satire, dark comedy, with existential reflection. It doesn't always stick the landing. The world building feels undercooked, the pacing falters, and some performances tip into caricatures of characters. But despite its flaws, Mickey 17 offers a deeply layered narrative that asks bold, uncomfortable questions about identity, labor, and what it means to be human in a system that treats bodies and lives as, well, expendable. At its best, it uses its sci-fi premise not for spectacle, but as a mirror, one reflecting the cruelty of exploitative systems, indifference of bureaucracy, and the quiet courage of individual resistance. It's a film that doesn't beg to be understood, so much as it dares you to sit with its discomforts. If you're looking for a clean answer or a traditional arc, this film may frustrate you. But if you're open to something messier, something that challenges you to think about yourself, your work, and the systems that we live in, then Mickey 17 is worth your time. It's not just another sci-fi movie. It's a parable about disposability, autonomy, and empathy, all disguised in a story about a guy who literally dies for a living. Thanks for watching. If you've seen Mickey 17, let me know what you thought in the comments. Did the sauce metaphor work for you? Were you rooting for Mickey 17 or Mickey 18? And what were some of your key takeaways from the film? And where does this rank for you in Bong Joon-ho's body of work? Until next time, stay curious and maybe don't sign any contracts that call you an expendable.